Okay, hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, and it looks like the Ukrainians continue to play Russian oil depot bingo, and it's happening. And like they're crushing. If this is their intention, they are um, very successful at doing to the Russians what they want to do to the Russians. Far more successful than the Russians are with implementing their strategy on the battlefield. 670 Russians off the battlefield. What does that number mean? It's about the 20th highest day in the war. It's a tie for the 20th place in the war, and it's actually brought it up to where last month casualties and this month's casualties are right now tied. So it's just a matter to be seen what happens in the next couple of days, whether it'll be slightly higher or slightly less high for this particular month. 1670 Russians off the battlefield, 10 tanks, 24 armored fighting vehicles, 29 artillery systems, 97 vehicles and fuel tanks. Okay, last night, what Russia does, they continue to do, they sent 57 Shahed drones over to harass Ukrainians. 29 were shot down, 14 suppressed by electronic warfare. Some got through. And so, for example, here, people had very little time to react to the air raid alert. Everything happened almost simultaneously, both the air raid signal and the missile, because there was also a missile strike that went with that yesterday. I don't think this was at night. I think this was at a different time. A Russian Iskander-M missile struck a private food enterprise, killing two female employees, age 54 and 56. What on earth, guys? Like hitting a private food or restaurant or whatever it was to kill two women. That's what they're using their missile on. Now, the Ukrainians are far more strategic about this and what they're planning to do and how they're doing it. Again, they're playing Russian oil refinery bingo, and they're being wildly successful. So let's back up. This is the defense intelligence update from the British from today, but it's talking about what happened on January 8th. January 8th, 2025, Ukrainian uncrewed aerial systems reportedly struck Kristall Oil Depot, Russia. That's 8 kilometers from the Engels 2 air base. The strike caused large-scale fires within the petroleum, oil, and lubricant storage areas of the depot, reportedly taking several days to extinguish. A further strike was also reportedly conducted on the night of January 14th, once again targeting the Kristall Oil Depot, reigniting the fire and causing further infrastructure damage to the site. And then you can see the imagery of what was actually hit where on the base. And so, yeah, that's a good hit. They're hitting something that is important, that's going to have an effect on the war itself. Here are the places that they hit now. So this was last night. Russian MOD claims this morning that a UAV was destroyed over Murmansk region in Russia. That's a long way from Ukraine. Right? Now, I don't know anything about what actually was hit there, but that's a long way for a drone to go. Now, according to Russian media today, 23rd GRAU Arsenal in the village of something I can't pronounce in the Tver region was hit by drones. Over 20 UAVs targeted the ammunition depot and nearby military base, causing damage to buildings. The attack also hit the Andriapol oil pumping station, causing a fire. Okay, good hit. Kosovo Refinery, owned by Lukoil, represents about 38% of Lukoil's refinery capacity in Russia. That was it as well. Without this, Lukoil will be amputated from a large part of its revenue in the context of very high interest rates. Now, that's important because when they're hitting this oil refinery, this Lukoil oil refinery here, giant oil refinery struck by Ukrainian drones in Novitsky Novgorod region. It has a refining capacity of 17 million tons per year, accounting for 6% of Russia's total refining output. Okay, so when those kind of things are happening, like I talked about this in the 3 big stories last night, with even more evidence of Russia's economic woes. And like, we're not making this up that Russia is hurting economically. Is this going to be a knockout blow? We just don't know when the knockout blow is going to come, or how close we are to that. But they are just getting hit after hit after hit. Okay, more about the oil refineries. Days after Russia's 3rd largest oil refinery is taken down by Ukrainian drones, the 4th largest is taken down by Ukrainian drones. This is the Sovo refinery, has operated since 1958 with a $975 million renovation in 2010. Yep, how about that? Locals complained that communications have been cut out. How about that? Communications cut off. I wonder what's going on there. Russia's fourth most powerful oil refinery. Here's another picture of it. Okay, let's turn our attention to other hits as well, because this isn't the only one, but a little bit here. This comes after a night of large-scale drone attacks across Russia with over 100 drones involved. And again, what the Ukrainians are targeting are they're going after ammunition depots and oil refineries and oil depots. Ukrainian drones swarm, flying completely unencumbered by Russian air defenses way out of Oriel region at this hour. Okay, so now how are they doing it? They're doing it because they're flying low to the ground. There's no air defense. And if there is air defense, the air defense is targeted at higher up drones. So flying low to the ground is actually helping it. And they also have some, when they swarm, they have some if they're going to the particular targets, they'll have some like dummy drones that will take the incoming fire before other drones come through. Okay, Russia's most popular military bloggers no longer hide the panic as Ukraine continues to destroy Russia's most valuable oil infrastructure. Quote, the enemy continued to destroy Russian oil refining and fuel storage. Ukrainians are laughing at us. So here are just a couple of quotes to give you a sample of what's going on. Ukrainian Nazis continued massive drone strikes on energy facilities on Russian territory. Today, the Lukoil refinery at Sovo, Nizhny Novgorod region was hit. On Friday, there was a raid on Ryazan oil refinery company. The blow is extremely sensitive. These refineries share third and fourth places in Russia in terms of capacity, technology, and depth of refining. They also tried to hit the Smolensk nuclear power plant, but all UAVs were shot down there. I'll get to that story in just a moment. In a week, it will be the 6 months since the Ukrainian ends invaded the Kursk region. In 3 weeks, the third year of the war will end, and the fourth year will begin. Well, now it's possible. Now it's possible to switch off Ukraine. Yeah, it's not. You haven't been able to do before. Here's another one. The war was in its third year. The enemy continued to successfully destroy the Russian oil refining and fuel storage systems with the moped planes that flew at maximum speeds of 120 kilometers per hour and were assembled from blank and sticks in Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk garages. The oil refineries were not protected by air defense and are not protected. There are not even mobile groups with small arms, or if there are, their work is not noticeable at all. Okay, so that's what pro-Russian bloggers are saying, and it reminds me of this cat touching ice for the first time. Like, they're just flipping out. They just really, they don't know what to do with themselves. Here's the governor of Smolensk claiming that Ukrainian drones tried to attack the nuclear power plant. Like, they're actually saying this. Civilian facilities in the Smolensk region were subjected to a massive drone strike. One drone was shot down during an attempt to attack a nuclear power facility, according to the governor. No, they weren't trying to attack a nuclear power facility. Like, this is not how the Ukrainians roll. It would be distinctly out of character if the Ukrainians were doing that sort of thing. Okay, let's turn our attention to the front line for just a little bit. Ukrainian forces recently advanced in Toretsk near Pokrovsk, and Russian forces recently advanced near Toretsk, Pokrovsk, Kharkiv, Velka, Novosilka, and western Zaporizhia Oblast. So, I mean, it's the same thing on the battlefield. The Russians are really pushing at the Ukrainians in a significant way. The Pokrovsk direction, the Russian invaders led 75 assaults. They really, really want Pokrovsk. Okay, just a couple other things. Belarus is putting dragon's teeth at the border of Ukraine. I think that's great news. That makes it harder for them to get across the border as well. So this is a publicity stunt, but nonetheless, it's really, you have to, are you really worried about that, Lukashenko, or are you just trying to gin up some, yeah. Okay, he's just trying to gin up some uh, animosity about that. Okay, reports suggest that Kadyrov was diagnosed with pancreatic necrosis in 2019, and he keeps vanishing. So here in January 2025, he disappeared from public view for 18 days. And he did that again back in January of 2024. And so we're wondering what's going on. Like he showed a film of him wearing something, but it didn't really fit what was going on in the video. And yeah, so anyway, so we'll keep an eye on that kind of thing. Okay, Dugan says Russia fights for itself and Chinese and Indian, Islamic, African, Latin American guys. The only reason that I'm showing this here is, and maybe I'll do a separate video talking about that itself, but the only reason I'm mentioning that is because they see themselves at war with the collective West, and it ought to be understood that that's what they think. This was interesting. Anonymous, this was a translated post. Please, my husband is going to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. Tell me, will I be entitled to payments in the event of his death if I already received them from my first husband in 2022? Wow. So that's part of the calculation going into sending people into the special military operation. Okay, onboard footage of the Russian nuclear-powered icebreaker, 50 years of victory, sailing directly into a Russian cargo ship in the Kara Sea. Like, isn't there a lot of room up there, like, I don't know why we're getting so close to each other, and there was damage to both ships. Okay, Chinese robots in China performed a dance. China is a Chinese New Year, by the way. So in China, robots perform at the local New Year's Eve festival. Every year, a festival includes a number of showcasing technological advances. In 2025, it was Android Dance. So there's humans dancing with lots of robots. And this is probably a pretty good use for them. But what they're going to be able to do with these robots is actually quite frightening, well, given enough time. Okay, Darth Putin put this out on this day in 2022. Comrade, and this is his name. I'm not like, it's not a slur or anything, informed us that the invasion hoax disintegrated as Schultz met with the president. Remember, we're less than a month from the 3-year anniversary, or the going into the 4th-year anniversary. So the invasion hoax disintegrates as Schultz meets with Putin. Okay, well, it didn't disintegrate. It actually was still there all along. And then finally, I'll leave you just with this picture of a Ukrainian defender on the front line. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.